Okay, let's take a look at another way of solving a quadratic equation with what we call the quadratic formula. So we're working with things like this, right? Ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0, and we're looking at different ways of solving that. Sometimes we can factor, sometimes we complete the square. This video shows us a new way of solving this using what we call the quadratic formula. So there's the quadratic formula right there. And as long as my quadratic has this form, I can just take the values of a, b, and c and plug into this formula here to get the solutions for x. So it's a very direct, easy way to solve for the different solutions of this quadratic. So let's go ahead and use this formula. Let's use the quadratic formula and let's solve the following equations to get a little practice using the equation. So the first one we'll look at is 3x squared plus 7x plus 2 equals 0. So I'm going to go ahead and plug into this equation the particular values of a, b, and c that I have. So x equals a negative b. Well, b here is 7, so I'm going to have a negative 7 plus or minus the square root of b squared. B is 7, so 7 squared is 49. And then I need to subtract off 4 times ac. So I'm going to go ahead and write down 4 times a. A is 3. And then c is 2, so times 2. So that's what I need to plug into in the numerator. And on the denominator, I have a 2 times a. So down there, I need to put 2 times. You can see what I like to do. I like to write a parentheses, and I know I'm going to fill it in. And I'm going to fill it in with a, which is 3. So that's kind of how I like to do these sometimes, kind of put those parentheses there, then go pick off the value and put it in. Okay. So now that we've got this written down, it's really just numerics to simplify and reduce it and get kind of down to the final answer. So let's walk through that. A negative 7 plus or minus the square root of 49 times 4 times 3 is 12 times 2 is 24. So that's going to be 49 minus 24. And then the denominator, 2 times 3 is 6, obviously. We can simplify again. A negative 7, 49 minus 24 is 25. And this one actually works out really nicely because the square root of 25 is 5. So a negative 7 plus or minus 5 over 6. And now here's where I can get my two solutions. One of these is a negative 7 plus 5. The other one is a negative 7 minus 5, obviously dividing by 6 for both of those. So let's go ahead and do that. A negative 7 plus 5 gets us up to a negative 2. That's a negative 2 divided by 6 is a negative 1/3. So that's one of my solutions. The other one is a negative 7 minus 5. That's negative 12 divided by 6, which is a negative 2. So there's my other solution. So we've used the quadratic formula to find the two different values for x that make that quantity equal to 0. Let's work another one. Here is my quadratic I'm going to work with. 8x squared minus 5x minus 6 equals 0. And we're going to solve for the solutions of this by using the quadratic formula again. So x equals, I have to write down a negative b. So my b right here is already minus 5, a negative 5. So when I negate that, I get a positive 5, plus or minus the square root of a negative 5 squared is 25. Minus 4 times a. A is 8, so I'm going to put an 8 right there. And then times c. C is a negative 6, so I've put a negative 6 right there. And then on the denominator, 2 times a. A is 8, so 2 times 8, I get that right there. All right, so now it's just time to simplify this a little bit. So 5 plus or minus 25 25 minus, let's see, 4 times 8 is 32 times a negative 6. That's going to make this positive, so it's going to be 25 plus 4 times 8 times 6 is 192. And then 2 times 8 on the denominator is 16. So I get down to here. 25 plus 192 is 217. And now I have my two different solutions. Square root of 217 is approximately 14.73. So I just did that on my calculator. And one of my solutions is 5 plus 14.73, which is 19.73. Divided by 16 gives me 1.23. And then the other solution is 5 minus 14.73, which is a negative 9.73. divide that by 16, and I get a negative 0.61.